Tensions flare in California as U.S. President Donald Trump called for the deployment of the National Guard troops to enforce order in the Los Angeles area amid protests over activity by immigration and customs enforcement officers. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem defended the use of National Guard troops, calling them essential to protect peaceful protesters and law enforcement. She said that the White House won't allow a repeat of 2020 unrest on U.S. streets, referring to the unrest in Minneapolis after the killing of George Floyd. Floyd was killed on May 25, 2020, by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who kneeled on his neck for nearly 10 minutes. During the 2020 Minneapolis riots, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz made the controversial decision to deploy the state's National Guard. Noem criticized past responses to unrest, blaming Democratic governors for letting their cities burn for days. She insisted the soldiers are trained for crowd control and are vital to maintain order and prevent violence. She added they'll guard public spaces and ensure safety during peaceful demonstrations across Los Angeles County. Trump invoked Title X authority to federalize 2,000 National Guard soldiers and deploy them to Los Angeles County. It's the first such move since 1965, where a president deployed troops without a formal request from the state. California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom called the deployment inflammatory and warned it would escalate tensions, not ease them. Newsom said there's no unmet need in California and accused the Trump administration of wanting a spectacle. However, Noem said Trump is choosing safety over waiting for Gavin Newsom to get some sanity, calling him reckless. Noem blamed the mayor for perpetuating a dangerous situation by refusing to acknowledge rising unrest. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth warned active duty Marines may be called if violence escalates in the coming days. LA Mayor Karen Bass rejected the need for troops, saying local law enforcement is equipped to handle the protests. Bass said deploying 2,000 National Guard soldiers is unnecessary and risks creating more fear and disruption. Los Angeles has erupted in protests following large-scale immigration enforcement operations by ICE, leading to widespread unrest and clashes between demonstrators and law enforcement.
When you raid Home Depot and workplaces, when you tear parents and children apart, and when you run armored caravans through our streets, you cause fear and you cause panic. And deploying federalized troops is a dangerous escalation. But we need to be real about this. This is about another agenda. It's not about public safety. There's clearly no plan, and there is clearly no policy. I want the people of Los Angeles to know that we stand with all Angelenos, no matter where you were born. The First Amendment right gives you the ability, again, to protest peacefully, but it does not give you the right to be violent, to create chaos, or to vandalize property. And that will not be tolerated. So I call on all Angelenos to continue expressing your right, your anger, your outrage, but to do it peacefully. And I just have to say that all of you were there Friday. Everybody knows what happened Friday. A workplace, several workplaces were targeted and raids took place. Now, in the beginning, the administration said they were just looking for dangerous felons, violent people. It's hard to say that that's what they found at a workplace or in a Home Depot parking lot. When this happens, It terrifies people. It sends a sense of fear and chaos in our city. And you well remember a few years ago in the last administration that kids were afraid to go to school, parents were afraid to go to work. This impacts all of our city. You can't terrify the workforce, and then expect for people to get the jobs done. So if you think about a father that went into a factory and now his family doesn't know where he is, the detainees have not been allowed to speak to legal counsel. That is a marked departure from what has happened in the past. When you think of a mother that might be working in a household, taking care of children on another side of town, that impacts that family as well as her family. And so this is something that I think should not be happening in our city, and I join with the governor in appealing to the administration to rescind the order to federalize the National Guard and allow the National Guard to come back under the control of the governor.
In California, are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection. No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
What is the purpose of your meetings in Camp David in the next 24
We're going
hours?
up to Camp David. We have meetings with various people about very major subjects. So we thought we'd do it at Camp David. There's probably better security there than any place. We'll be meeting with a lot of people, including generals, as you know, and admirals. No. So we'll be meeting with military people and others.
Have there been
any foreign visitors at Camp David?
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Second active Marines on the table, sir. Secretary has
We're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Mr. President, do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago, New York, for example, in the next few days?
Protests, we're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away, and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
What are the rules of engagement for federal troops?
We'll see what happens. If we think there's a serious insurrection or less than that, we're going to have law and order. Very important.
How would you define an insurrection?
You have to really just have to look at the site. You have to see what's happening. Last night in Los Angeles, we watched it very closely. There was a lot of violence there. There was a lot of violence, and it could have gotten much worse. You have an incompetent governor. Just take a look at the train stations that he's building. Like 20 times over budget. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So I did call him the other night. I said, look, you got to take care of this. Otherwise, I'm sending in the troops. That's what we did.